I never really had a negative view of mathematics. I've always really liked math. I never had a negative attitude towards it. I have always liked doing puzzles, and so to me, math was always kind of a puzzle. I did like algebra more than like word problems, and I always struggled with fractions and decimals and more of what we would call naked number problems were definitely what I was better at and what I was more confident in. But my view of mathematics didn't really change this semester. I think that one big thing that did change was just, or not necessarily changed, but just something that really impacted me was the reiteration that we shouldn't discourage girls from doing math or make them feel like math is for boys. And this was the same for science last semester. Our professor really drilled into us to make sure that we weren't just encouraging the boys in science. And I feel like that's a big thing with math too, is to encourage the girls and the boys equally, because math and science aren't just for boys. Girls can do them too. And so I think it's important to give the girls even maybe more support when it comes to math so that they know that they can succeed and that they can do well in math. My personal confidence in doing math, I had originally rated myself as somewhat confident, which I would say is still the same. I that was the second one down from being the very most confident, and I wouldn't rate myself as very most confident just because there are still things that I struggle with when it comes to math. For me, doing math personally, like I said, especially with more word problems and statistics and decimals, fractions, and stuff like that. But like I said, I've never really had a negative attitude towards it. I will try and try my best, and I think that's another good thing to instill in your students, is that even if they maybe aren't getting it the first time, you should always encourage them to try and do their best, and that their efforts won't go to waste, that it just takes some practice and some extra work sometimes. My confidence in teaching mathematics, I had originally rated as neutral, just because I had never, I don't think we ever had to teach a math lesson in the program prior to this semester. So I really didn't know how confident I was because I had never done it. So after teaching my math lesson, I taught a lesson on rate in a sixth grade class. And sixth grade math is definitely different from elementary math anyway. But I actually found that I kind of struggled with the material, trying to figure out how to teach it, and recalling my own knowledge on rate in order to successfully teach that lesson. But I think now, after having taught that, I would say that I am really not very confident in teaching math, just because teaching that one lesson, obviously you're not going to be an expert after teaching one lesson. And so I think teaching that lesson showed me my weaknesses and some strengths, but weaknesses in my ability to teach math. And so for that reason, I would think that I'm not very confident. I just think I have a lot more to learn and more strategies to learn in how to successfully teach math. And then my vision for my future classroom, I definitely, if I had, it would be nice to have an unlimited budget. I would love to have books on math concepts that help teach math concepts as students read them. Of course, manipulatives such as base 10 blocks, MathLink cubes, chain links, like we used in class on the last day to talk about I think we used them to talk about probability, um, and other counting manipulatives. Fraction tiles, I actually did some research on manipulatives and to see like what other teachers had in their classrooms and their fraction tiles, which for students like me that struggle with fractions, I think having that visual would be really beneficial for some students. Different math games include math concepts that students can learn as they play them, and of course dice and geoboards, 3D geometry building sets, and play money to help students learn about the concept of money and recognizing the different values of coins and bills. I think something easy to have in your classroom is chart chart paper that students have done work on to display around the room, and that can be for students to go back and reference if they've forgotten how to do something. And also just having student work on display can boost their confidence, and that can be something that they can say, oh, like that was my work, I did that, and they can be proud of that. Hopefully I can be able to have different zones in my classroom where there's comfortable seating and comfortable places for them to go, where they can, maybe during centers or even just if it's time to work independently or in groups, different areas for them to go where it's comfortable and where they can work. And then having back kind of to manipulatives and other resources, having hundreds charts individually for each student, and then maybe one big one to reference at the front of the room. So these are some things that I'd love to have in my future classroom.